The desperate call. The twin suns of Helios cast long purple shadows across the crystalline spires of Azuria, the capital city of the Heliori people. For 10,000 cycles, the Heliori had lived in harmony with their world, building a civilization that blended seamlessly with the natural beauty around them. Their tall, slender bodies, covered in iridescent scales that shimmered like opals, moved gracefully through suspended gardens and along waterways that flowed through the heart of their cities. First Minister Ilara stood at the edge of the council chamber's balcony, her four-fingered hand resting on the living crystal railing. Below her, citizens went about their day, unaware of the darkness that lurked at the edge of their star system. The message had arrived 3 rotations ago, and she had kept it secret until now, hoping it was a mistake or a cruel joke. It wasn't. Minister Ilara, they approach. Council member Phelan's voice was tight with fear as he joined her. His scales had dulled to a sickly gray, reflecting his emotional state. The long-range sensors confirm it. 7 vessels, each larger than anything in our defense fleet. Have they responded to our communications? Ilara asked, though she already knew the answer. Silence, just like before they hit the Centauri colonies. The Volok had emerged from deep space 2 cycles ago, an unknown species with technology far beyond anything the peaceful worlds of this sector possessed. Where they came from, no one knew. What they wanted was clear enough: conquest, resources, and slaves. The Centauri system had fallen in days. Billions dead, their beautiful crystal cities reduced to dust. Summon the full council, Ilara said, her voice steady despite the fear churning inside her. We must decide quickly. Within the hour, the 12 council members gathered in the sacred chamber, their faces grim. The holographic display in the center showed the approaching Volok fleet, massive, angular vessels unlike the sleek, organic designs of Heliori ships. Our defenses cannot withstand them, Defense Minister Varen said. His military scales were bright red with agitation. The Centauri had twice our firepower and were overwhelmed in 3 days. Evacuation, someone suggested. To where? Varen replied. We have colony ships, but the nearest habitable system is 20 cycles away. They would catch us before we cleared the outer planets. Silence fell over the chamber, heavy with despair. There is one option, said Elder Moran, the oldest member of the council. All eyes turned to him. His scales, once vibrant blue, had faded to pale shine with age, but his eyes remained sharp with intelligence. Speak, Elder, Ilara encouraged. Earth. The word hung in the air like a forbidden incantation. Earth, the distant blue planet in an unremarkable star system that had, in just 3 centuries of spaceflight, developed a reputation that spread across the galaxy. The humans. Council member Reva's scales flashed orange with alarm. They're barbarians, violent, unpredictable, and undefeated, Elder Moran finished. No species that has provoked Earth has remained standing. Their history is written in the blood of their enemies. We are not their enemies, Ilara said softly. No, Moran agreed, and that is why they might help us. The humans have a peculiar moral code. They protect those they consider innocent. They despise bullies. And the Volok are certainly bullies, Varen muttered. Ilara closed her inner eyelids in thought. The humans were a paradox, capable of terrible violence, yet also remarkable kindness. Their art and music had spread through the galaxy alongside stories of their ferocity in battle. They were young as a spacefaring species, but had carved out respect through sheer tenacity. How would we even contact them? Asked Thalen. They maintain no embassy here. They have a listening post at the edge of the Proxima system, Varen said. We could send a tight beam message. Ilara looked at the holographic display again. The Volok fleet had entered the outer system now. They had perhaps 3 days before the attack began. Send the message, she decided. Tell them everything. Tell them we will provide compensation for their assistance. And if they refuse? Ryga asked. Ilara's scales darkened to deep indigo. Then we face extinction with dignity. The message was sent, a desperate plea hurled across the stars to a species known as much for their compassion as their capacity for violence. And then they waited. The Volok entered the middle system on the second day. Their ships moved with predatory grace, ignoring the automated warning beacons. Helios Prime, the outermost Heliori colony, went silent that evening. Tens of thousands of souls snuffed out without even a distress call. On the third day, as the Council prepared evacuation orders for the capital, the sky changed. It began with a ripple in space, a distortion that spread like a wave across the stars visible in the daytime sky. Then, with a flash that momentarily outshone the twin suns, a tear opened in the fabric of reality. "What is that?" gasped Thelen, staring upward from the council chamber. Varen's military-enhanced vision focused on the anomaly. It's a gate, some kind of artificial wormhole. Through this impossible opening in space, ships began to emerge. Not just ships, an armada. Hundreds of vessels poured through the rupture, from small, dart-like fighters to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the Volok command vessels. Each bore the same insignia, a stylized earth with a sword through it, the emblem of the Terran Defense Force. "By the Ancient Ones," whispered Ilara, "what have we summoned?" Communication systems across the planet suddenly activated, broadcasting on all frequencies. A human face appeared on screens everywhere, male, dark-skinned, with eyes that reflected both intelligence and something harder, colder. "People of Helios, I am Admiral Chen of the Earth Combined Fleet. We received your distress call and have come to render assistance. The hostile force in your system has been designated as targets. Please remain in your cities and await further instructions." The message ended as abruptly as it had begun. "They came," Thelen said, his voice filled with wonder. "They actually came." "And in force," Varen added, studying the tactical displays. "That's not a rescue mission. It's a war fleet. I count over 400 combat vessels." Ilara felt relief wash over her, but it was tinged with something else, a primal unease. The humans had arrived like gods from ancient mythology, tearing open the very fabric of space itself. Such power was terrifying, even when wielded in their defense. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. The Volok, seemingly unprepared for Earth's sudden arrival or their overwhelming numbers, attempted to regroup. It was useless. The human vessels moved with coordinated precision, their weapons cutting through Volok shields as if they were mist. From the council chamber, the Heliori watched in stunned silence as flashes of light marked the deaths of the invaders who had terrified them just hours before. It wasn't combat. It was execution. "There, magnificent," Varen whispered, professional admiration overcoming his earlier reservations. When the last Volok ship had been reduced to debris, a new message came through from Admiral Chen. "The immediate threat has been neutralized. We will be establishing a defensive perimeter around your system. An Earth diplomatic team requests permission to land in your capital to discuss terms of our continued protection." The council exchanged glances. "Terms," Riva said. "What terms?" "We did offer compensation," Ilara reminded them. "Send them landing coordinates," she instructed the communications officer, "and prepare a formal welcome." 3 hours later, a sleek black shuttle descended through Azuria's atmosphere, landing with precision on the ceremonial plaza before the council hall. The Heliori had assembled their finest honor guard, musicians, and diplomats to greet their saviors. The shuttle's ramp extended, and from it emerged not the diplomatic team they expected, but soldiers. 20 humans in full combat armor, their faces hidden behind polarized visors, weapons held at ready positions, fanned out to secure the landing zone. Only when they had taken position did a woman in a gray uniform descend the ramp. She wore no armor, but carried herself with the confidence of someone who needed none. Her hair was pulled back severely, her eyes a piercing blue that seemed to evaluate everything with cold efficiency. Ambassador Hayes, she introduced herself to the startled Heliori delegation, representing Earth's central government. I understand you're the ones who called for help. Ilara stepped forward, performing the traditional greeting gesture of her people, a graceful movement of hands that symbolized peace and gratitude. First Minister Ilara of Helios, we thank you for your swift response to our plight. Your timing was miraculous. Hayes nodded curtly. The Volok have been on our watch list for some time. You provided us with an opportunity to deal with them directly. We are prepared to discuss fair compensation for your assistance, Ilara began. Hayes smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Excellent. Earth doesn't provide charity, Minister. We provide solutions. Comprehensive ones. She gestured toward the council hall. Shall we discuss the details in private? My team has prepared a proposal for Helios' future security needs. As they walked toward the hall, more shuttles began descending through the atmosphere. Not dozens, but hundreds. Your security force? Ilara asked, scales shifting to a concerned yellow. The first wave, Hayes replied. You see, Minister, when Earth commits to protecting a world, we do so thoroughly. The Volok were merely the first threat you faced. There will be others. Others? The galaxy is a dangerous place, Hayes said, her tone almost sympathetic. Your people have been fortunate, isolated here with your beautiful crystal cities and peaceful ways. But that isolation has ended. You're now connected to the wider galactic community with all its dangers. She stopped walking, turning to face Ilara directly. Earth doesn't just fight battles, Minister. We prevent them. To do that effectively on Helios, we'll need to establish a permanent presence here. Bases, monitoring stations, defensive installations. Ilara's scales darkened with alarm. That wasn't part of our request. It's part of our solution, Hayes replied smoothly. Earth protects its interests, Minister. And as of today, Helios is very much an Earth interest. As if to emphasize her point, 4 massive ships broke through the cloud cover above the capital. Troop carriers, each capable of deploying thousands of soldiers. Your council has some decisions to make, Hayes continued. We can discuss the details inside, but understand this. The protection of Earth comes at a price. The question is not whether you'll pay it, but how. Ilara looked up at the ships now hovering over her beautiful city, then back at the human's impassive face. In that moment, she understood with terrible clarity what they had done by calling Earth. They had traded one invader for another. The price of salvation. 3 months after Earth's arrival, Azuria was no longer recognizable as the serene, crystalline city it had once been. Military installations dotted the skyline, their harsh angular architecture in stark contrast to the flowing, organic designs of Heliori buildings. Earth transport ships rumbled through streets once traversed only by silent hover platforms, and human soldiers patrolled alongside nervously compliant Heliori security forces. Ilara stood at the window of what had once been the council chamber, but was now designated as the Joint Governance Office. The view that had once showcased the magnificent crystal gardens now revealed Earth's primary command center, a sprawling complex of prefabricated structures that had consumed the ancient park in a matter of weeks. The mineral extraction approval needs your signature, Minister, said Colonel Reeves, pushing a datapad across the table. The human officer had been assigned to Ilara as an advisor, though both knew his real purpose was supervision. Another mining operation? Ilara asked, her scales shifting to a troubled green. The southern continent is already being stripped at an alarming rate. The novolite deposits there are essential for phase stabilizers, Reeves replied with practiced patience. Earth defense technology requires significant resources. Resources that are being shipped off-world, Ilara noted, not used for Helios defense. Reeves' expression hardened. The Earth Combined Fleet defends 17 systems now, Minister. Resources are allocated where they're needed most. Your signature, please. Ilara signed. Resistance in these small matters was futile, and would only lead to what the humans euphemistically called governance adjustments, the removal of uncooperative officials. 3 council members had already experienced such adjustments. When Reeves left, Ilara activated the privacy field in her office, Earth technology, ironically one of the few benefits of their protection. Once certain she couldn't be monitored, she opened a secure channel on a modified Heliori communicator. The last farm settlement in the Meridian Valley has been ordered to relocate, she said without preamble. 3,000 more displaced. For another mining operation. The voice belonged to Thelen, now officially her deputy but unofficially her partner in a growing resistance network. Yes, Novolite extraction. They'll destroy another sacred site. There was a pause on the line. The information from our source was correct, then. Ilara, there's something else you need to see. Tonight. The old reflection temple. I'll be there. After nightfall, Ilara slipped through the city using the ancient waterways that ran beneath Azuria. The humans had mapped most of the city, but the subterranean passages, sacred to Heliori tradition, remained largely unknown to them. The reflection temple had once been a place of meditation, its crystal walls designed to capture and enhance the light of the twin moons. Now abandoned due to its proximity to a human security zone, it served as an occasional meeting place for those Heliori who questioned Earth's intentions. Thelen waited inside with Varen, the former defense minister now stripped of his title, but not his military expertise. With them was a young human woman Ilara didn't recognize. Minister, this is Dr. Morgan Chen, Thelen introduced, Admiral Chen's daughter. Ilara's scales flashed with surprise. A defector. A scientist with a conscience, the woman corrected. Her eyes, unlike those of most humans Ilara had encountered, held genuine warmth. What they're doing here isn't right. Dr. Chen has been working in the Resource Evaluation Division, Varen explained. She's discovered something troubling about Earth's operations. Morgan Chen placed a small device on the temple's central altar. It projected a holographic map of the Helios system, with certain areas highlighted in red. These are the current and planned extraction sites, she explained. Notice the pattern. Ilara studied the projection. They form a circle around the planet's equator. Exactly. But it's not just about the minerals they're removing. Chen manipulated the device, and the image changed to show subsurface scans. They're placing something at each site after extraction, energy nodes of some kind, connected by deep-level conduits. For what purpose? Thelen asked. I've only seen fragments of the complete plan, but from what I've gathered, they're building a planetary harnessing system. Harnessing what? Ilara asked, though a terrible suspicion was already forming. Your planet's core energy, Chen replied grimly. Helios has an unusually active planetary core, generating massive amounts of thermomagnetic energy. My father's mission isn't just about protecting your world. It's about turning it into a power source. Varen's scales flashed angry red. They're going to drain our planet. Worse, Chen said. The technology they're implementing is experimental. In theory, it creates a controlled tap into core energy. In practice, she hesitated. The simulations I've seen suggest a high probability of planetary destabilization. They would destroy our world. Ilara couldn't keep the horror from her voice. Not intentionally, Chen answered. But Earth's central government is desperate for new energy sources. The war with the Arcturus Collective drained our reserves, and there are rumors of another conflict brewing with the Syrian Dominion. They're taking risks they shouldn't. Ilara sank onto one of the temple's meditation benches, her scales fading to a pale, shocked white. We invited them here to save us. Earth doesn't save anyone without profit, Chen said softly. I'm sorry. My father was once an honorable man, but these policies come from above even him. We need to stop them, Thelen said. But how? Their military presence is overwhelming. Not as overwhelming as it appears, Chen replied. Most of the fleet has been redeployed to the Syrian border. What remains is mainly support vessels and a skeleton defense force. They're not expecting resistance, because they think we're incapable of it, Varen said, his military training asserting itself. We've been peaceful for so long. They see us as docile. What are you suggesting? Ilara asked. Not violence, Varen clarified quickly. We couldn't win that fight. But disruption, sabotage of their equipment, organized non-compliance. These are tactics that could force them to negotiate. And I can help, Chen added. I have access to their construction schedules, security rotations, communications protocols. Ilara considered their words carefully. She had sworn an oath to protect her people, to preserve their way of life. Had she betrayed that oath by inviting Earth here? Perhaps, but she could still uphold it by resisting what they had become. We'll need to be strategic, she said finally. Dr. Chen, what's the most vulnerable point in their operation? The central control node, Chen replied without hesitation. It's in what you used to call the Crystal Gardens. Everything routes through there. If it were disabled, their entire network would collapse. And then what? Thalen asked. They would just rebuild. Not necessarily, Chen said. There's something else you should know. Earth's position isn't as secure as they want everyone to believe. The Syrians are pushing back hard at the border. Resources are stretched thin. If you created enough problems here, Earth Central might decide Helios isn't worth the effort. We'll need to coordinate with all the resistance cells, Varen said. A synchronized action. As they discussed plans, a distant rumble shook the temple. Then another, closer. What was that? Ilara asked, moving toward the entrance. The sky above Azuria was lit with explosions, not on the ground, but in orbit. Through gaps in the clouds, they could see flashes of weapons fire. Chen activated her comm device, bypassing security protocols to access Earth military channels. Her face paled as she listened. It's the Volok, she said. They're back with a much larger fleet, and they've brought allies. But your fleet destroyed them, Thalen said. Apparently not all of them, Chen replied. These aren't just raiders. This is an invasion force. Another explosion, closer this time. The temple trembled. That was ground-based, Varen said, his military training allowing him to recognize the difference. They've landed troops already. Earth's defense systems shoaled. Ilara began, but Chen cut her off. The systems aren't fully operational yet. They've been focusing on the extraction infrastructure first. She looked grim. My father's ships are trying to hold them off, but they're outnumbered. A new message came through Chen's device, a general broadcast on all frequencies. Admiral Chen's voice, strained but commanding. To all Earth personnel and Heliori citizens, we are under attack by a Volok-led coalition force. Defensive positions are being established. All civilians should seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill. The message cut off abruptly. We need to get back to the city center, Ilara said. My people will need leadership. As they hurried from the temple, the night sky filled with the burning trails of landing craft. Some human reinforcements, others Volok attack ships. The battle for Helios had begun again, but this time with the Heliori caught between two powerful forces. In the chaos of the developing battle, Ilara made a decision. She turned to Dr. Chen. Your father, can you get me a direct communication line to him? Possibly, through my emergency channel. Why? Because we need to change the terms of our arrangement, Ilara said, her scales shifting to a determined blue. Earth needs us now as much as we need them. Within the hour, Ilara stood in the Earth Command Center beside Admiral Chen. The human commander looked haggard, his uniform disheveled, but his eyes remained sharp and focused on the tactical displays. The Volok have landed forces in 3 major cities, he reported. We're containing them, but barely. Their fleet is larger than our intelligence suggested. They must have been gathering allies since their initial defeat. They want revenge, Ilara said, against both our peoples now. Chen nodded grimly. My daughter tells me you have concerns about our operations here. This isn't the time. Ilara began, but Chen cut her off. On the contrary, this is exactly the time. My forces are outnumbered, Minister. I need your people fighting alongside mine, not watching from the sidelines. Fighting. Ilara's scales rippled with surprise. We are not warriors. Everyone becomes a warrior when their home is threatened, Chen replied. And make no mistake, if the Volok take this planet, they won't establish bases or mining operations. They'll exterminate your species. Ilara knew he was right. The Volok had shown their true nature at Centauri and other worlds. They didn't conquer, they consumed. What are you proposing, Admiral? A genuine alliance, Chen said. Not the arrangement Ambassador Hayes established. Equal partners in defense of this world. And the extraction operations. The planetary harnessing system. Chen's eyebrows rose slightly. My daughter has been thorough in her intelligence gathering. Yes, those projects will be halted pending joint review. Earth needs allies more than it needs resources right now. Outside the command center, explosions lit the night as Earth forces engaged Volok troops in the city outskirts. Time was short. I'll mobilize our people, Ilara decided. Not as soldiers, but they can support your forces, guide them through the terrain, provide medical assistance, help evacuate civilians. Good enough. Chen extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, Ilara took it. For Helios, she said. For both our peoples, Chen replied. As dawn broke over Azuria, the battle raged across the once peaceful city. Earth's military technology clashed with Volok brutality in the streets, while above, ships from both sides lit the sky with energy weapons and missile trails. But something unexpected was happening on the ground. The Heliori, long known as a peaceful species, had found their courage. They emerged from shelters not as refugees but as defenders, guiding Earth soldiers through hidden passages, transforming crystal working tools into improvised weapons, using their intimate knowledge of their world to set traps for the invaders. In the central plaza, now a makeshift command post, Ilara and Admiral Chen coordinated the defense. The human officer had shed his earlier imperial manner, working with rather than above the Heliori leaders. The northern district is secure, Varen reported, his scales bright with exertion but his eyes alive with purpose. The Volok didn't expect resistance from the locals. They're falling back to regroup. The northern district is secure, Varen reported, his scales bright with exertion but his eyes alive with purpose. The Volok didn't expect resistance from the locals. They're falling back to regroup. Press the advantage, Chen ordered. Don't give them time to adapt. A communication officer, human, and Heliori working side by side, called out, Admiral, the Volok command ship is hailing us. Chen and Ilara exchanged glances. Put it through, they said simultaneously. The holographic display flickered, revealing a Volok commander, a massive gray-skinned creature with multiple eyes and an exoskeletal ridge across its skull. Earth forces, it rasped in translated speech. This conflict is costly for both sides. We propose terms. What terms? Chen asked cautiously. Withdrawal. Mutual. This system is not worth the losses. Ilara stepped forward. And the Heliori. What of us? The Volok's multiple eyes blinked in what might have been surprise. You speak with authority, prey creature. I speak as First Minister of Helios, in alliance with Earth, Ilara replied, her voice steady. Any terms must include our sovereignty. The Volok commander made a sound that might have been laughter. You have no standing in these discussions. You exist at the pleasure of greater powers. Admiral Chen's face hardened. Minister Ilara speaks with full authority of the Earth combined fleet behind her words. The Heliori are our allies, not our subjects. Any agreement must recognize their full sovereignty. Silence stretched for several seconds. Unacceptable. The Volok finally replied. We will continue until victory. The transmission cut off. They won't negotiate, Chen said grimly. It will be a fight to the end. Then we fight, Ilara replied. Her scales had shifted to a color humans couldn't see, the deep ultraviolet that, in Heliori tradition, represented resolve beyond fear. Together. As the battle for Helios continued, something unexpected was happening throughout the system. The news spread. Earth and the Heliori were fighting side by side, not as protectors and protected, but as equals. 3 days later, bloodied but unbroken, the combined forces of Earth and Helios stood victorious. The Volok fleet had been driven back, their ground forces destroyed or captured. In the council chamber, restored to its original purpose, Admiral Chen and Ilara signed a new agreement, an actual alliance between equals. The extraction projects were converted to joint research initiatives, with safeguards to protect Helios' environment. Earth forces remained, but as invited allies rather than occupiers. We came here as conquerors disguised as saviors, Chen admitted as they stood on the balcony overlooking the damaged but healing city. It seems we've become something else entirely. Actual saviors, Ilara suggested. Chen shook his head. Partners, perhaps even friends, a better arrangement for both our peoples. Below them, humans and Heliori worked together to rebuild what had been destroyed. The humans' efficiency complemented the Heliori's artistic sensibility, creating something new that honored both traditions. You called to the stars for help, Chen said thoughtfully, and you got a nightmare before you got a dream. Perhaps that is often the way of the universe, Ilara replied, her scales shifting to a philosophical purple. We must face our fears before we find our allies. The twin sons of Helios set on a world forever changed, no longer isolated, no longer naive, but also no longer alone in the dangerous galaxy. Earth had come as conquerors but remained as allies, learning that true strength came not from domination but from cooperation. And across the stars, other worlds took notice. The species that had once been feared only for their capacity for violence was now becoming known for something equally powerful: their capacity for change. Retroclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.